Morning. Thanks for coming in, Mike, again. We had the opportunity last time to sit in and observe a poetry workshop where the guys are working on their poems, the seniors, and this time it was more of a poetry reading that we observed, that I observed. Could you give me a little bit of background of what the goal of the whole lesson was?
Sure. The workshop is intended for these guys to put down on paper some of the things that they wouldn't normally be able to express in poetic form, like we talked about last time. And poetry is meant to be read, so we wanted to. We staged a reading professionally, as it would have been done on any university campus or anywhere else, and we had the guys stand up at the podium and actually put their work out into the world, and they really took to it. They seemed to really enjoy the process and the procedure, and it was definitely a success.
Now, as a science guy, you have to bear with me a little bit.
For sure.
Would the students always be given an order, or would it be more like an open mic, open mic kind of night?
Yeah. Well, the difference between an open mic setting and a staged poetry reading is, with staged reading there is an order of presentation. I mean, most stage readings that you'll see on a college campus or on other high school campuses usually have one or two headlining poets that come up and speak. In our case, we had 16 guys and just did it in alphabetical order, so that nobody felt like they were singled out, or this guy wants to go last, this guy wants to go first. Straight down the list in alphabetical order, and I jumped in there, read I think third or fourth, because that's my last name, Carr, and we did it in alphabetical order like that, and hopefully it was a good success.
So I enjoyed that in your first lesson that I observed, how you kind of stuck yourself in.
It helps, I think. I found a lot. If I start writing, if I start getting the guys, or talking about how the guys should do this, should do that, and they don't see me doing it per se, I lose a little bit of credibility. So I like to try to put myself, and it helps. It's just fun for me to write too.
Absolutely.
So,
what was the purpose of the videotape? Obviously to review, but from the lesson perspective, what are the kids are they gonna use that, or elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. We had the reading videotapes because one, the school and the the public relations department, they wanted to see the tape of it and eventually link it to the article that they wrote on our school website about it. We have a contract with MSG Varsity, so we were going to send it into that. They always like kind of eclectic, different things besides sports. And the third reason is, hopefully the kids can take a look at it and see that maybe, see where they can improve for next time. Like, we had a lot of guys that, when you're giving a poetry reading, staring down at the paper, draping over the podium, things like that. I mean, poetry is supposed to be more dynamic, and it's supposed to be, I think, more audience engagement, if you will. People respond well if someone is erudite, well-spoken, and they're writing good poetry.
Yeah. How did you feel like? Did you feel like kids really owned it and presented it sort of in that? Would it be like a theatrical manner you're talking about? Or?
Well, not necessarily the theatrical manner, but more it's like it's a confidence, I suppose. It's the guys have to learn that their words, their writing should be. They should feel confident always in what they're up to. And so presenting their work with a confident demeanor is important for sure.
And will the tape be used as a grading or review is the presentation part of a grading rubric, or is it just
it was a graded assignment. I was more I was more concerned with their behavior and presentation during the reading, as opposed to how they actually gave it, because this is the first time most of them have spoken in front of a group of people like that. And again, it was, there's groups of people, there's people outside of the classroom like yourself who were there. So it was an experiment, I suppose, overall.
And how would you rate, would you say they handled it well?
Yeah, I think so. I think they handled it very well. I would certainly say that that they had that certain maturity that you need in order to pull something like this off. They understood that it was not necessarily their grade that was at stake. It was their writing that was at stake. You present your writing in a way that's ridiculous or silly, and people don't take you seriously. So they had a personal stake in it. So that's kind of
the.
Well, I mean, and again, it went off of what you had suggested last time in terms of how do you get the guys engaged. How do you get guys who don't want to participate in class engaged? Well, how do you learn how to swim? You jump in the water. So that was, we were like, okay, not necessarily. Some of the guys who hadn't spoken a lot in class, they were forced to, not forced to, but they were almost in a good kind of peer encouragement way. Everybody's up there doing it, so you can feel comfortable to do it. We were all up there doing it, so everybody jumped in and everybody did it.
When their name came up in the order,
their name came up in the order. You're up at the podium, and you can either shine or retreat in, and they all shined, so it was good.
Okay, so where do you see it going forward? You have seniors.
Yeah.
You have some guys who may become disinterested with the whole academic thing.
Right.
For a short period of time, the laziness, we know it kicks in.
Yeah.
What can you do going forward to keep up the participation and really press on them and build on? Because obviously we've made strides, from the first class to getting them all involved and really active in their, to kind of taking ownership of the whole thing. I thought that was very good.
Building forward, these guys are going to have a once per term. They're going to have these readings. So this was our fall term one. We'll have a winter term one and a spring term one. So they'll have a chance every term to stand up and present what they've been working on to the general public, to the world. And so I think that's one way that I'm going to keep them engaged. And the second is poetry is something, I have poetry, fiction, nonfiction is kind of the creative writing arc that we go through during the year. But poetry is something that I can always infuse into the curriculum. It's really easy for them to churn out a couple of poems throughout the course of the year, and they seem to really enjoy it. And they're all talking about how they want to have a poetry slam and beat poetry back and forth. And I think it's great. It's anything that gets them excited about doing that. So I may put in something like that at the end of the year. They want to study rap lyrics. We're going to study that.
Okay.
We're going to look at some of those. They want to study certainly they're not really fascinated by Wordsworth or Coleridge or any of that older romanticism, but they want to learn how Tupac got his lyrics. They want to learn how Bob Dylan's writing. They want to learn how Springsteen's crafting his stuff, and so that's kind of the things that I'm gonna save for a rainy day, if you will, save for the time when they're really disengaged, right around February, March, when everybody starts to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So hopefully end the year on a solid note. I've also got a really cool nonfiction piece. Book that they're going to read in the second part of the term. It's a story about, or it's a nonfiction reporting about a firehouse in 9/11. So I'm going to kind of end the year with something hopefully heroic that kind of carries them into their next phase of life. So.
I think it's tremendous. Being able to, that you are flexible enough to be able to, talk about Tupac's lyrics and you know, engage them in their world, you know, things that they really enjoy. That's definitely going to help, I think, increase participation greatly and get the guys really excited. Otherwise, you know, they don't maybe get as excited as the year comes to a close, and that's definitely something that, you know, looking forward, we can look to address and get them involved with. And continuing the poetry readings and workshops is going to help their skills, but like you said, the act of presenting and you know, just getting them excited about it is going to make it all that much better.
I'm certainly going to need, you know, I would definitely be asking for feedback during that time, especially because that's the time when it's the most tenuous, and any, you know, creative suggestions on how to get them engaged would be helpful and useful. And I'm certainly going to look back for you for those, because you're always full of good creative ideas and suggestions.
You know, I really enjoyed the overall structure of it. You know, the videotaping yourself is always great for reflection, and I think that you know, the participation, I saw a turn in the tide of the class when you jumped in there. Luckily your name is in the beginning of the alphabet, so things turned early. They were a little loose. You had the guys hold their applause until the end of the reading, which kept everyone kind of quiet and reserved and really attentive. I think that you going, though, really showed them how it was meant to be, how it was meant to be done, and they really took after you, and you know, that the whole mood changed immediately in my eyes. So I thought that was great. Again, throwing yourself in there makes it so that the student who is maybe the shyest or least aggressive at presenting his or her ideas is willing to do so because they feel safe in that environment. So moving forward, just to restate what we have, I think that we want to work on continuing participation. I think you've got some great ideas for doing that. Making poetry relevant to their world. I know the classics are, they need to be there and they need to be reviewed because they are classics. But every little anecdote you can give them about how it relates to them in real life, it is going to make them that much more excited about it.
Yeah.
And being excited about learning is a major factor in improving, in learning and achieving. And I think that you'll get better poets.
All right.
But
all right.
So let's take a look at that and
all right.
move forward. Thanks,
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it. Good to see you.